Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video today, and today we're going to be talking about a potential signing for the Houston Texans. As recently in the last 12 hours, it is looking like the Texans and former Houston Texans Pro Bowler, and when he was on the Texans, he was a star, might be. Maybe there is a chance Jadeveon Clowny and the Houston Texans might be reuniting, as Jadeveon Clowny said that he liked what he's seeing going on in Houston with some of the young guys and their head coach with D'Amico Ryans, and that his agent has talked to the Texans about a potential signing with them, and that he would like to, potentially play with the Texans, and stay close to, his family. That he said he has family that lives here, and his trainers that he's training with, that's where he was recorded saying this stuff. That is, he'd like to be in Houston with his trainers, where his trainers are, and I'm actually down for it. I actually would not mind the Houston Texans signing Jadeveon Clowny. Obviously, you're not getting the star player you had from 2016 to 2018, the guy that you drafted first overall in the 2014 NFL draft. I think you're going to get a guy who's going to be good to these young players on the these young defensive line players on the Texans, and help them. Be a mentor to Will Anderson Jr. These two guys, they have something in common. Both were picked in the top at the draft. Well, Will Anderson wasn't picked 1. He was picked top 3 in the draft. Clowny was picked 1 in 2014 with the Texans. And Will Anderson was picked 3. I think Clowny could be a good mentor to Will Anderson Jr. coming in as a rookie. Clowny most likely is not going to be a starter. Maybe it starts a little bit. I think it's a little weird because Jadeveon's been starting most of his, Cleveland this season with the Browns, played 12 games, started in 10. 2021 played 14, started and played 14, started all 14. Will Anderson Jr., he's that first starter at defensive end, but then that second starter at defensive end, potentially, if Jadeveon Clowny would be on the Texans, I guess it would be a competition between Clowny and John Grenard. And also you got Jacob Martin on the roster and Jerry Hughes. So it'd be a very full defensive end room. And I think it'd be really funny to see Jacob Martin and Jadeveon Clowny playing on the same team, because that's who when the Texans traded Clowny away in 2019 to the Seattle Seahawks, they received like a third-round pick, some defensive line player named Mingo who never turned out to be anything and was actually horrible, and Jacob Martin, who was a solid role player for the Texans from 2019 to 2020, but then in 2021 played 17 games, 14 starts, and Jacob Martin had an absolutely amazing season in 2021, but then he left us in free agency in 2022 for the Jets. Played, I think, 8 games with the Jets in 2022, and 5 with the Broncos. But then just yesterday, the Houston Texans signed him in free agency to a 1-year deal and bring him back. It would be funny to see Jadeveon Clowny and Jacob Martin on the same team, but I'm down for it for the Houston Texans. Let's go over some of Clowny's stats. 12 games and 10 starts with the Browns last year, with 3 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and he had 2 sacks and 28 tackles with 4 tackles for loss. 2021, 14 games, 14 starts, 2 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, 9 sacks last year with the Browns, and 37 tackles with 11 tackles for loss. 2020, in 2020, he played 8 games with the Titans. He had 4 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, 0 sacks, 19 tackles. That was probably one of his worst years in the NFL, since, his best years with the Texans. 2019, spent 1 year with Seattle. The Texans traded him, played 13 games, 11 starts with a pick six, and he got an interception that turned into a touchdown, returned it 27 yards, 3 passes deflected, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 10 yards. He scored a touchdown on a fumble recovery as well, so 2 touchdowns for Jadeveon Clowny in 2019, 3 sacks, 31 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. They had a really good year in 2019 with the Seattle Seahawks in 13 games, but then with the Texans in his last year with the Texans, which he had Pro Bowl seasons with the Texans in 2018, 2017, and 2016. With the Texans in 2018, 15 games, 14 starts. He had 1 pass deflected with 1 forced fumble, 3 fumble recoveries, 1 touchdown scored. Yeah, he did have a touchdown scored in 20. He did have, on a fumble recovery, he had a touchdown scored in 2018. I think that was against the Colts. But then in 2018 he had 9 sacks, and then 47 tackles for loss, and sorry, not 47 tackles for loss. What I'm saying, 47 tackles and 16 tackles for loss. And then 2017 with the Texans, 16 games, 16 starts, 2 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 75 yards, and one of them was a touchdown against the Patriots. The other was a fumble recovery against the Bengals on that Thursday Night Football, Watson's debut. But he also had 9.5 sacks that year with 9.5 sacks that year with 59 tackles and 21 tackles for loss. Then 2016 with the Texans, another season he was a Pro Bowler, 14 games, 14 starts, 2 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble. He had 6 sacks with 52 tackles and 17 tackles for loss. Or sorry, not 17 tackles for loss, 16 tackles for loss. So I think it would be a decent signing for the Texans to reunite with Clowny. Be adding some more depth at the defensive end position with we already have Will Anderson Jr., John Grenard, Jacob Martin, Jerry Hughes, and then to add Jadeveon Clowny to that defensive end position. It'd be a stacked defensive end room, but I'd be down for it. You guys have your thoughts? That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the potential Jadeveon Clowny and Houston Texans reunion. And peace out. Go Texans.